If I don't feel that this painting is gonna eat me, it's not good. I need to feel that it's bigger than me, even if it's smaller. That's how nature is. It's always bigger than me. I look for immersion all the time. Things that are important for me are like color and texture and expressiveness, but it all comes from that, from being there and from trying to become myself available to receive the information from the trees, the soil, the birds, the insects, the air, the temperature, the humidity. I am not painting the landscape or the land as something that is out there far from me, and I am here just the observer and I'm painting it. I am absorbed by it because I am a part of it, because I am a child of it, because I am sometimes just like a little ant or an insect or a stray dog walking through some bushes. It's about the land, but it's about myself in that sense, myself as being part of it. That's the statement of the painting. This is me existing in nature. Hi, my name is José Jun Martínez. I'm a Puerto Rican, London-based artist, and I'm in Jackson's studio. We're gonna be talking about painting. My first memories of making art are very, very early. I have this cute photograph of me in my grandparents' living room. My grandma is sitting and I'm drawing her. I was a toddler. And I think since very early, my family saw that I enjoyed it. I was never good at sports or other, things. Art was my thing. Because of that, when I was around the age of 12, I started studying in a specialized art school in Puerto Rico called the Central High School. There, I must say, I learned two things: the love of art and the discipline. For anyone who studied there, it was like a magical place. It's called El Palacete, which is like a palace, like a castle, especially when you're 12 years old. It's a program where students are, just having their normal classes. And then every day you do art, you have an art class. So you had to choose where you were going to study. I went to the drawing and painting department, and I studied 3 years of that specialized department in high school. And by the end of that time in that school, I knew I had to go and pursue studying art. I use the word landscape to explain my painting because it's the easiest way, but I don't consider myself a landscape painter. It is a shared experience. When I am painting a place, it is not just what I can perceive through light and color and texture, but the place has a history. Painting is about that tension. It's like when I go to a river and I'm like, there's something is being said here about what happened, not with words, but with the sounds, with the mist of the river hitting your face, with the forms of everything. And I say I paint places of encounter because that's it. It's just, this is where you have the reflection about all this other stuff that we're living and that we're thinking and that we're being affected by it. I bring all of that with me. I cannot leave it out there. Even if I try hard, really hard, I can't. Even though you can only maybe just see a landscape. But I know, because I feel it and I've heard people say it also, there's something else happening here. It's always something else that's happening here. If a painting is too pretty, I can't live with it. I have to, at least myself, I have to be able to see the bit of darkness in it. I sometimes jokingly say that some of my paintings are like David Hockney and Anselm Kiefer having a child. It's the joy of it with the pain of it existing all together. That complexity, that tension, that's what for me makes it real. Also, it cannot be completely dark and sad. That's not who I am. That's what the Puerto Rican experience was for me. It's all this joy of living in this beautiful place that goes through all this really heavy and hard experiences, it doesn't stop to be beautiful ever, but it's hard. That's why I paint the way I do. I paint with oils. I use a lot of paint, so I try different brands, and I keep going to those that have like a thicker consistency to the how it goes, how it flows. I use Gamsol to dissolve my paint. It's one of the safest mediums I've found that I can use and that work well for me. And I do use oil later, linseed oil. The other thing is the use of the oil bars. They come first, like in the beginning, the first stages of the painting. It's a kind of draw, but it's also paint. I don't use charcoal to draw, or I don't like to make such a strict drawing. So with oil bars, I can like draw, and then just it becomes paint quickly. And then later in the painting, I also use them to maybe highlight some parts. Maybe some parts of the painting that look more like a sketch or unfinished, but they're still like, they have color. So the process is always also like that. Like it goes back from what I used in the beginning. It's gonna come back in the end as well. It's not 1, 2, 3. I go back to the beginning always again. Sometimes people ask me, how long do you take to make a painting? And my answer now is that it either takes me 3 hours or 3 months. Because sometimes they just come like this. It's like, oh, yeah, this was clear from the beginning. Then sometimes it starts being something where you can see the tree or the flower or the river, but then it starts disappearing and it comes back again, and you can. So my process is like, I can see it come and disappear and become abstract and become more like recognizable until it's done, until I feel I can stop. When it was time to go to college, again, I knew I needed to continue studying art, and I went to the University of Puerto Rico to study fine arts. And that was also like a beautiful experience. I think it was very important to me to stay in Puerto Rico those years and to learn my fundamentals and my beginnings of my practice and the place that I am from and that I love. Some of my best professors that taught me painting were not even painters. They were printmakers, or they were like drafts people. And I think it always gave me a sense of art not being an isolated thing, but existing among many other disciplines and ways of getting to know and study the world. I try not to exist as an artist in this very contained world of thinking just from the art perspective. I think I'm just one more person thinking and looking at things. So it was like very complete education in that sense that helped me both have like a very strong sense of the traditions of art and art history, but yeah, also like the liberty to experiment and find new ways of making my own language and my own interest and my own practice. And those were the years where what I'm doing now, I don't know, 10, 15 years later, that's when it started. The experience of painting outside, because it's such an like overwhelming sensory experience, and I'm feeling so, receiving so much information and trying to process it and trying to put it into painting, it can become really intense, especially because I try to do it in a contemplative manner. And by that I mean I don't just go there and put the canvas and start painting. Sometimes I take an hour of just being in the place before starting to paint. I talk a lot about my painting as a contemplative action. Painting is my way of processing what I am receiving. What I found out that worked for me to communicate, in a sense, what that experience was to use as much texture and impasto, and how can I help whoever's looking at my painting to feel something of what I am feeling, in the language that I could. And that's where the impasto came in. It's like a tactile way of, you want to touch this, you can't. You need to react to it. The first approach was just everything was impasto. Now I'm more interested in how can I achieve the same, but maybe using less. Maybe only doing the impasto where it's actually necessary. It's not necessary, but when it's necessary for me. What if I can also communicate intensity with a thin layer of diluted paint, or a thin layer of an intense color, or by leaving some spaces without paint. And that has given me like more opportunity to say more things in one painting. So it's like the paintings are evolving into being a more diverse space, where you have the moments of intensity and the moments of peace and the moments of pause and the moments of, oh, this is intense again. That's how my thought process works, and then the painting is becoming that as well. The way I see it, Puerto Rico is a very fertile place for creativity, not just in the visual arts, but in everything. It's that thing of, this small island, the particular politics of it. Well, we are Puerto Rico, but we are not part of the United States. There's this whole complex situation, colonial relationship, actually. It's like the less ideal circumstances are the best place for creativity. All the challenges with weather, the hurricanes, all of that. And it's not, I'm not idealizing it. I'm just talking from experience. Because that's it. That's the challenge. How do you make something out of this? And this might sound a bit romantic, but I think, beauty, it just like goes through us, and it helps us just see things and find a way of making it all make sense. And still, now that I am in London, that's what I bring with me. Sometimes I'm in the studio painting and I do one brush stroke and I'm like, oh, it's just like that friend. This reminds me of a friend or a master or an experience or something from nature back home. The colors, the way I'm exploring it. My main source of inspiration is nature, where I grew up. And when I'm in the studio, even if it's February in London and it's cold and gray, what I'm looking for is the warmth and the light. And it's influenced by what I'm living here now, but it's just always, it's inside already. It's what I'm made of. I have a basic palette of yellow, blue, red, and I'm team Cadmium Yellow, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and titanium white. Like, that's my 4-color team. And then here comes magenta, and then there comes cerulean blue. I usually don't buy like green colors in the tube. I like to mix the greens with different blues and different yellows. I just love to not use the same green twice. I usually have a lot of cups in the studio with different shades. I think that's the most nuanced color, the one that has like more and more. I've allowed myself to add more and more different colors to the palette. There's also like the more earthy colors like raw sienna or burnt umber that I use mainly like in the underpainting, like in first layers. Each color gives me a way to approach a different element of the subject I'm painting. And for me, like yellow is light. It's just the door to light. Blue and ultramarine, it's just how I go deep into it just opens the door to something behind the canvas. That's how I feel it. And that's what ultramarine does for me. I only started using cerulean when I came here, and I found out that I needed a bit of it to achieve a certain blue that reminds me of the sky back home. And then the red, well, it's part of all of the others. It's in the green, and then it always comes up to give some vibration, some intensity to some parts of the paintings. There's colors like lemon yellow. I can't, no, not for me. It doesn't have the intensity I need from yellow. No, I stick with cadmium. That's my yellow. Like that's probably my favorite color. I know painters usually say, no, I can't have a favorite color. No, I'm cadmium yellow. That's my guy. After I graduated, from that moment till I came to London, I spent, I would say, 8 years of practice. And it was mostly a practice of going outside and painting immersed in the landscape. It was just something that came naturally. It's one of those impulses that you just follow. I can only say that it's the place and the way of painting that I felt most free and comfortable and confident with what was happening in the painting. And it just made sense. Hurricane Maria hit the island 2017, and I couldn't go outside anymore for a bit. And that's when I had to learn to paint in the studio. My reaction to that was silence. Respect was a moment of pause. But then after processing it, it's like, okay, nature always comes back. And even though it was a terrible time, it was good in the end that I learned to paint in the studio because now I'm here. And now my practice can move anywhere. I try to be careful when I say this, but I do believe that creativity comes out many times from necessity. In the beginning, I started bringing plants and flowers to the studio. You have to find a way to not be defeated by the circumstances. Then I started implementing photography. Went outside and I painted outside, and at the same time I took photographs of the place, and then I did larger paintings in the studios, and I had the smaller ones that I did outside. And I don't paint places I have not been to. Some years later, I even started projecting images in the studio, be it photographs or videos, and painting on top of them. And that was another way of bringing the outside into the studio. Very interesting process of not really seeing what I'm doing, but it's another layer of immersion. And I'm not copying the or tracing the projection, but I'm trying to do the same thing that I would do if I could paint over the landscape that I used to see when I was painting outside. The challenges and the not being able to do what you know how to do, that's what has brought me new opportunities to learn how to do things in a new way, and to, yes, maybe negotiate with technologies or tools that I was resistant to before, but in a way that now I use them because now I know how to use them and not just, let them use me. And what all of those years did is that it's like my work is about a relationship with the land, in a sense that I don't think it's like an imaginary emotional relationship, but it's more an experience of being a part of the place, and understanding that the experiences that I am living, the earth and the land is living them as well. So we're all together in this, and that's all these years my painting has evolved in that, trying to understand that, and then how the painting is also a part of that, in the sense of communicating it or giving it a language through the materials and the techniques and the colors, and those were like the real years for me of like being nourished by by the land that I love. Once I have the initial, like the starting point, then that's when the other layer of the immersion starts. The immersion of just, okay, what color should come first, and what's the texture that this painting is asking for? What elements are gonna stand out? Is there any other thing that's gonna come into the painting? Any other reference? I still use references from back home, from Puerto Rico. I've come to include other landscapes of different places that I've visited as well. Sometimes I'm here, and it happened to me during the masters. I'm painting on top of a video that I'm projecting, and it's a river in Puerto Rico. And then suddenly it's like a Puerto Rican river with the temperature of a river in the countryside here, because it was cold weather here and it was dark. I think it was like January or something when I was painting it. I did a residency in Vermont, and I did it as part of the fact that I couldn't paint back home. It was like a displaced artist fellowship that they gave me. When I went there, it was January, and it was Vermont, and it was so snowy and so cold. It was really interesting to leave home, because I was not able to paint outside there, but then coming to this other place where I also couldn't paint outside. So I started going on walks, and I took videos, and I went to the studio every day, and I worked from memory and from the videos and from looking outside from the window. And a series of very white, snowy paintings came from that residency, which were very different from what I was painting before. But it was like a double interruption. The hurricane destroyed the landscape of the island that I used to paint. And then the solution was not to go to a greener place, but to a place that was the opposite of what I always knew. And that allowed me to then go back and let's try to start again and see what I can do. Recently, I did a residency in Tenerife. I was only painting from references from Puerto Rico. Wait, no, I have to paint this place. I have to go and explore, and something moved me. And the way I could connect with the island in some ways, a whole exhibition came out of that. I'm not just one thing or one painter. I am as many painters as experiences I have. I go with no expectations, but the expectations to have a new thing and see what's coming. What I do know about my painting is that it resists to just be one thing. The moments where it becomes abstract has to do with how much absorbed I am by it. I don't think that comes from a plan, from a predetermined idea of, okay, this is going to be an abstract painting, or this is going to be like a more detailed landscape. And I try not to fight against what comes. Sometimes a painting comes out as something completely different than I was expecting. I respect that, and I'm like, yeah, okay, this is you. I'm gonna let you be yourself. I'm fully in the painting, and that's why sometimes it gets messy. And I love a painting that's not easy. I love a painting that's unpredictable to me, and that only happens if I let go of control. Studying an MA was something that I wanted to do since the moment I graduated. When I was researching for school and I saw the Royal College of Art, and it did not disappoint. Like I am very happy that I made that choice, and still I'm very interested in getting to grow more here and seeing how my work has changed with new influences, including the influence of the different weather and the light or the lack of. New things are coming into the paintings, like some abstraction, some colors that are not the natural colors, some things that look like, I don't know, spirits or just just rays of light or creatures, or I don't know, like these things they're coming, and that's a new exciting stage in my work. But also like the paintings that I'm able to see in the galleries and museums, and not just paintings but everything, every new practice of art that I'm getting to know through the works of others. My work is growing, and I can see it. It's changing, and I am excited about that, and I am looking forward to keep experiencing that. Because of what I paint, I feel that two things are happening in the edges. There's like this part where the force of gravity, the end of it, where it stops working, and it kind of create like a magnetic kind of area where it all stops being pulled into the painting. I need to be able to feel that things are happening outside of the canvas. The edges point me to the continuity of what's coming next, or what's outside that I'm not seeing because my vision is limited. And also, well, the possibilities of this particular canvas are also limited. There's only so much that I could put into it. I like to remind myself in the edges that there's more. There are paintings that are more about light, and then there are paintings that are more about earth or soil. And there's always both things in them. Those are not the only two elements, but I think they're the most common ones. And so if I start with the more earthy tones, I'm looking more at a soil or ground, or the wood, or I would say the more solid aspects of the landscape. If I start with the yellow, then I'm thinking more about light, or with the blues, I'm thinking more about something that's airy or fluid, sky or water. So the way I start the painting responds, I would say, to the element that I am most attracted to in this particular work. And then the rest comes after, usually the greens and the blues, and by the end, I can't see anything of what I did in the beginning. Pour brushes. I am not very careful with them, so I love a brush that can hold a lot of use and a lot of rubbing, and sometimes I use brushes and it's like using a palette knife at the same time. Like, it's not, sometimes it's just a stick and I'm just using it to hit the canvas. So I love like a hard bristle kind of brush. I love cheap brushes because they are bad and they are perfect for me. And then sometimes that it also makes a difference when you have a nice brush that gives a different note to the process of painting, and a different attitude. And that's another part of it. I think the adding and the subtracting are as important to the process. It's not just putting more and more. You know, what you remove is also really important. Yeah. I prefer a rough surface, so I try to gesso the canvas myself. I do like the surface to resist the brush or the knife. It's always a bit crispy, a bit. Sometimes I use like multiple panels to build a painting. That started like a just very practical move. I needed to make a big painting, and it's easier and cheaper to make it into parts and transport it. But also like the psychological and the more even symbolic sense of a big landscape being painted from different moments where you're looking at it, and it all makes one image. If I'm painting in the studio, a work should be larger than me. The idea of the immersion. But when I'm painting in a smaller scale, I don't know, the mind has its ways of feeling that it's larger. sometimes harder to do a larger painting, not because it's harder to make, but because it's easier for it to create an impression. You want a painting to go beyond the wow or beyond the impression. You want it to do something more, and for a large painting to do something more, then in that sense you have to approach it with the mind of a smaller painting. That's an interesting challenge every time with scale. Most of the times, a painting only goes wrong if I have a clear idea of what I want before I start it. And then it goes wrong because it doesn't look with like what I was thinking about. I just have to make peace with the fact that this painting is gonna take longer, and I have to manage my expectations about it, and then entering this new state of, okay, this is a thing. This painting is a world that is unknown to me, and I'm gonna go and explore it. My most mature approach is to take it slower. In the past, I used to grab a knife and destroy it. I've learned not to do that much. And sometimes, if you give it a break and you come back at it, it's not that bad. You're like, oh, it was just me and my stress and I was projecting my frustrations into the painting. She was okay. I do document the painting in its different stages, but the problem with documenting it, I usually delete it right after it's in a different stage, because there's this temptation to think, oh, it was better earlier. And no, that doesn't exist anymore. So move with what happens now. I have to accept it and live with it. One way I know that a painting is finished is that I can sleep at night, not thinking that I have to go back to the studio tomorrow to do this one thing. And that, I think that's one stage of it being finished, and not the last one. If I have opportunity to have that painting for a bit more time in the studio after I finish it, then there's another moment that I'll probably look at it again and say, oh, it is finished, but this can also happen, and then I go back to it. It's okay to not touch it anymore. I don't know if that means the painting is finished, but I am done. I did what I was gonna do. So it's always interesting to see a painting after a while finishing it and saying, oh, it wasn't finished, but it finished it herself. I don't know. I was spoiled with my studio when I was back in Puerto Rico. I had like this huge space. It was a residency, a 2-year residency. When I came to London and to the RCA, I had this little corner where I had to make whatever I could in it. It's not ideal, but it reminded me that I can do anything with whatever resources I have. I like a very open and clear studio space. I am not really a very organized person with the space, but there's an order. And yeah, I do have a corner for references and a corner for my books. But apart from that, it's just a free space of paintings on the walls and just, brushes, and the paint tubes are everywhere, and it's kind of messy, to be honest. I don't want to say wild, but it's a bit wild when I'm like painting because of the nature of what I am evoking. I don't feel that I can paint nature in a domesticated, orderly way. It gets a bit like I have to react to it, and for that, well, the studio pays the consequences, and there's splashes everywhere. And natural light is like the most important element for me. Either with natural or artificial light, it plays different roles. I make better paintings when the sun is still outside, unless I'm on a roll and I have to keep painting during the night, and then artificial light is what I got. From experience, if you have, for example, like a very comfortable couch in your studio, I'm gonna spend more time in the couch than painting. I know myself. I don't know, I'm liking it to be practical, and it's a space where I'm like, the painting is the main thing. I would say the process of getting ready for a day at the studio starts in my flat. I spend some time looking at what I did the day before, maybe getting to read something to have my mind like in a certain, I don't know, idea while I'm painting. I have this Puerto Rican poet, Francisco Matos Paoli, Canto de la Locura, and some other of his poetry books that I just, it's for me, it's almost like a prayer book. Like I go back to it and it's my moment of getting back into a sacred place where if I ever feel lost, I'm like, okay, I'm back here. And that happens a lot in the studio, you know, because sometimes there's like so many voices or so many information that even though I say that I can process those things through painting, sometimes I need a safe place. And some books, including that one, are like a room, like a little room that I can get into and have my moment, and then okay, I'm ready to paint again. Or sometimes I just have to put some nice music and get my body moving and start painting. It's both a physical and psychological thing you have to do to get ready to paint. And usually it's music I can dance to. I think different stages of a painting or of a series of painting asks for different companions. Sometimes I call someone and I'm talking on the phone while I'm painting, but sometimes I need the world not to exist for a moment and I can just really get into what I'm doing. Yeah, there's no formula. Painting is so alive that it's always asking for a different thing and you have to obey. The first time I came to London, they took us to the National Gallery and I saw Van Gogh's chair and some of his landscapes. It was the first time that I saw a painting that I had only seen in books. And not just him, some Cézannes as well, Impressionist painters. I just have that experience as a key experience that opened the world of painting for me. And to look at Puerto Rican old masters like Francisco Yer, or more later ones like Carlos Raquel Rivera, which I've been looking to a lot. But I think it's even more important to be able to look at artists that have nothing to do, apparently, with what I'm looking for. And that's what I think really, really gives me like more visual and emotional and, you know, intellectual like food. Could say I've learned more from artists that I will never do anything that looks like them. When I was in Puerto Rico, I used to teach different spaces. I taught to small kids in a school. And then for a few years, I taught in the Museum of Art of Puerto Rico. My approach to it was always to make sure people could find out that they can enjoy the process of making something and that they could overcome the doubts of, oh, I can't paint, which is like, oh, I can't do art. No, you can. The materials are here. Start using them, keep using them, and something will come out. Every time I'm struggling with a painting, you know, that's the same. I have to become one of my students and say, no, you can do this. You can enjoy it. Just play. I remember one of my first art teachers, and I don't know what was happening with me, but all I remember is that she came to me and she grabbed the brush and she did this in my painting. She gave me back the brush and said, "You have to paint without fear." And I still hear that voice every time. I remember this one artist. She said, "If you can imagine yourself doing anything else, go and do that." If you can only think of yourself making art, then this is for you. It's just about, I don't know, like living it. And this is what I do. This is what I've decided to do. But if this is what I have, I have to just do it without fear. For me, it's like very important to be open in the process to whatever comes and whatever happens, and be not just open but awake, and, you know, listening to the painting and what's surrounding me, the conversations that I'm having, the things that I'm reading, the news, the whatever book I'm reading at the moment. It's always very alive. I think that's why you never really stop creating, you never stop working if you're in that mode of being aware.